Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. Out here in the country, there are a lot of manufacturers who are doing some amazing things. And there are also a lot of people and companies who support their business in some way. Our guest today is one of those people. Mike Hill is the general manager for Big Rocks Engineering, a company that helps manufacturers and other types of companies develop new products, improve processes, and operate more profitably and productively. Stay with us to hear Mike's thoughts on serving clients in a competitive environment, how trade shows are such an important part of their marketing mix, and why collaborating with a third-party vendor partner can be an investment that pays for itself. Mike loves spending time on the floor of his company's clients throughout Missouri, and we're pleased to have him be our guest today. Welcome to Outdrive, Mike.
Hey, I appreciate it, Cliff. I really appreciate you having me here today.
Well, we're happy to have you, excited to get to know you and hear what you're doing. I know we ran into you at a trade show, at a national trade show that both companies were at about a month ago. And Darren Grove, who was there representing our agency, came back and said, "You got to talk to this guy. He'd be perfect for the podcast." So there we go. That's quite the setup, right?
That's a tremendous setup. Now I got to try and figure out what is it that I said. No, we absolutely. Yeah, met Darren at the Work Truck Week trade show. He was there with a couple of your clients, which actually coincidentally is one of our customers where I interacted with them. And that's why we're at the trade show was, we were there not exhibiting, but attending. And we are fortunate that we had, multiple customers at Work Truck Week. And so we were able to say hi and just continue to figure out how we can best support our customers. So, and like I said, ran into Darren and clearly had a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that a show that you've gone to for several years?
Yeah, so Work Truck Week has been, just from attending has been really good for us on multiple sides of things. So this would have been our third year going. So, so basically every year since COVID and every year since I've been with the organization. And every year we've been successful in finding new customers and finding, areas that we can add value. So it helps, just again, attending the exhibits, but then also learning about, some of the conferences that they have going on there, learning about the industry. And as we become more involved in the work trucks, in that industry as a service provider to the OEMs, really helps us to, better serve them.
So I think our audience would be interested to know this because I think a lot of people sometimes struggle with trade shows and picking up new clients. Do you have a strategy for how that's going? Why are you successful in that venue?
Yeah, so I'd love to argue that it hasn't been successful, but then I'd be wrong. So we do have a strategy. We approach trade shows from two different thought patterns. One is trade shows that we attend, and two, trade shows that we exhibit at. And we exhibit where our customers attend, and we attend where our customers exhibit. And we do that because it allows us to, if it's important to our customer, then we need to be there. If it's important enough for them to exhibit there, then that means that there's probably some indication or correlation with their end use or their end customer. And by us being there, it shows that we have an interest in their best interest. Right. And so that's the strategy for any time that we attend, because most of the time you go to those shows and you just run into the sales guys, and you're not running into the purchasing, you're not necessarily running into the engineers or the people who are making the buying decisions, but you're definitely making relationships and inroads to potential customers, which is why we attend. And then shows that we exhibit at, again, we exhibit at shows where our customer is the attendee, and that's so that we can put our best foot forward. We can show the products that and the services that we offer in front of them, front and center. We do a lot with Design Depart, which is wholly focused on OEMs, and so we exhibit a few Design Depart shows. We do a lot of advertising with them, and that's because that's who our customer looks to for finding suppliers, and so that's our strategy to it, and like I said, in a nutshell.
That's great insight. I have never heard it expressed that way, and it makes all the sense in the world. So I made note of that. I'm going to apply that to some things that we're looking at. And I jumped way ahead, and I'm sorry for that,
Yeah.
but I got excited talking about trade shows, which is pretty fun and pretty exciting. But let's go back
Yeah.
to the beginning. And Mike Hill, give us a chance to learn about you. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so me, I've been in engineering and manufacturing for a little over 20 years now. My bachelor's degree is actually in physics, not engineering. So I tell people I came in through the back door. While I was still working on my physics degree, I was fortunate to encounter a gentleman who ran a engineering and product development company here in St. Louis. I worked for him for about 2 years, actually, when I finishing out my degree, and we developed all sorts of products. We developed a bait cast fishing reel for US manufacturer. We developed anti-theft devices for vending machines. We developed batch burger loaders for fast food restaurants. And then his big claim to fame was an on-demand book machine. So it's an automation device that could download a digital copy of a book, print it, bind it as if you would buy it right off the bookshelf at Borders at the time, or Barnes and Noble. 500 pages in a minute was our design parameters. And so I worked with him, learning kind of the design process and the product development process from him. Went on from there, worked about a decade in aerospace defense, doing engineering and product development. Left there to run my own manufacturing plant and cut and sew, and then kind of hopped around for a little while until I ended up starting my own business in 2015, went full time in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. It was the right time, believe it or not, for me to make that jump. I was able to, because of the pandemic, retain a very large customer that helped really ramp up the business. And then in 2021, so a year after going full time, I ended up selling the business, and which is where where it currently lies. The new owner is fantastic, is a man of incredible integrity that, just in my conversations with him, I knew that I wanted to work with him. And so we rebranded the company as Big Rocks Engineering, and we bolted it on to five other manufacturing companies throughout the state of Missouri. And so we've got a small precision machine shop down in Bloomsdale, a metal fabrication facility in Moberly, a powder coating facility in Moberly, Missouri as well. And then we also have another CNC shop in Chillicothe, as well as a stamping operation in Chillicothe. And so it's been a wild ride and exciting. And I really, and just the vision when I started the business was I want to service manufacturing companies. That was always my vision. I love manufacturing, and so I wanted to service manufacturing and from an engineering perspective. And then when I got the opportunity to bolt it on to a group of companies where everything that we do is service OEMs, it just really was the right fit and the right time for me.
So are they all under the Big Rocks brand?
No, so Big Rocks, the holding company, name of the holding company is by Big Rocks Manufacturing, and Big Rocks Engineering is the only one that carries that name. And we did that if you can't tell, we're very customer centric. We did that because many of these businesses are very tenured, 50-plus-year-old companies. And the last thing we wanted to do, everything was put together through acquisition. And the last thing we wanted to do was disrupt any of our customers. And so, our facility in Bloomsdale is CED Precision Machining. Our facility on metal fabrication is Mac Hill's Metal Fabrication in Moberly, Total Powder Coat and Finish in Moberly, and then in Chillicothe, both facilities are Roberts Tool and Die. Again, tenured names in the industry. They've got great customers, a great customer base, and the last thing we wanted to do was disrupt that.
Yeah, that makes sense. So where'd the name Big Rocks come from?
So as we were thinking through, so Mac Hill's Metal Fabrication is kind of the cornerstone. That's what started the Big Rocks manufacturing group. And my company was Hill Innovative Solutions. And I was Mike Hill and out doing business development for Mac Hills and Hill Innovative Solutions. And so the name just started stumbling, we knew we needed to rebrand it. And so, when we talked about how do we do this branding thing, I said, hey, let's stop right here. The worst decision I think I've ever made in business was naming a company after myself. It was horrible picking up the phone and saying, I'm Mike Hill with Hill Innovative Solutions. It's like, I picked up the phone and said, hey, let me tell you how unprofessional I am. So I basically said, we're rebranding that one. That name has to change first and foremost. And so that's where we started. And we chose Big Rocks because we're like, okay, so what other, what metaphors can we use for hill? And, there's mountain and peak and all these other things. And then, the owner's wife actually said, well, what about, a big rock, right? A boulder, there's this big rock. And it struck a chord because if you're familiar with Stephen Covey's work, put your first things first, he has this tremendous example of why that makes sense, right? So when you put your big rocks into a container first, you have room for your small rocks, and then you'll have room for the sand and the water, right? So if you take care of your first things first, your top priorities, basically, then you'll be successful. And so that's, like I said, we wanted, from the vision and the inception, we wanted to service manufacturing companies. And so how do we do that? We help them take care of their top priorities. We help them take care of their big rocks. So that's where the name came from, kind of a shout out to Stephen Covey. It's become popular again with Gino Wickman and his entrepreneur operating system. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the EOS system now talks about your quarterly VSLs and having your big rocks coming out of your leadership meetings. And so it really, like I said, it really struck a chord with us. We still get the question, so you guys make rocks? No, we help manufacturers take care of their top priorities.
Well, that's a great story, and what a great way to approach it. Kind of evolutionary, but
Yeah.
then when it all comes together and it's like, wow, this makes all the sense in the world. And I can relate to the idea of naming a company after yourself. I did the same
Yeah.
thing, and there's been over the years, there's been times where I said, I wish I hadn't done that. And then you get so far along that it's like, well, it's too late
Yeah.
now. I'm just going
Can't
to
turn
run with
back,
it.
right?
Yeah, I can't turn
Yeah.
back. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you have such a focus on serving manufacturers. I have to think also that as a kid, you probably could make things and do things that a lot of other people are not talented to be able to do. Have you always had an ability, an uncanny way of making things and producing things?
I don't know that I would put it that way, but I will. So my father was an aircraft technician or a mechanic, basically, and so he worked he worked as a contractor for the Air Force through the first Gulf War, and then after that he went out and landed more in the private sector and worked on the corporate aircraft Spirit of St. Louis Airport, and he kind of you know a little bit like myself, had a bit of that entrepreneurial bug, and so he had his own, freelancing work that he did. So basically, from the time that I was old enough to turn a screwdriver, I've been pulling panels off of aircraft, and so that's absolutely where it came from, right? I mean, when I was 10 years old, I helped my older brother rebuild his, 1980, the engine in his '84 Firebird, right? And so there's just this mechanical aptitude that in our house you had to have, right? We didn't pay for someone to fix the air conditioning. We fixed the air conditioning, otherwise we sweated, right? You didn't so that was just the mentality that we had. My dad was just tremendously, incredibly, mechanically inclined, and definitely passed that down to me and my two brothers. And so, and all three of us boys, we had to work out of the airport, right? That's where we cut our teeth. Is, at some point in time we were working on aircraft. And so that's actually, I mentioned I came into the back door. So when I met, my first employer as an engineer, I was actually changing the oil on his Aztec aircraft. And he found out that I was studying physics. And he goes, "Hey, have you ever heard of engineering?" I'm like, "Yeah, those are the people that hang out below us, physicists." And and he's like, "Well, let's come talk." And he showed me the light, I guess. So that's where it came from. Absolutely, just being hands on from the get go.
So do you think that's why you have such an interest in serving manufacturers?
Uh, Between that and, so the first gentleman I worked for, he cut his teeth in the tool room with GM and Bendix up in Lansing, Michigan. And so, he started planting seeds in my mind about manufacturing, and then moving to manufacturing, was just the natural transition, from engineering and product development. And it's really been, just this seed getting the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of feeding to it, and it's just really grown and blossomed over the years. It's been 20 years since that job, right? So it's just, it's hard to say, but that's what's led me to just being so passionate about manufacturing.
So you mentioned that at the NTEA show, you were there and we had some of the same clients there.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so talk a little bit about some of the services that you provide to those clients or even others in other industries.
Yeah. So, on the engineering side, obviously our core focus and competency is new product development, but not every OEM needs that. So a lot of our work is actually just simple CAD work. It's helping. It's resources offloading in and out of projects. So it's CAD work. It's creation of technical documents. It's getting caught up on the engineering change notices, and then when the time is right and the project's right, we'll help out on a full product development effort. That's on the engineering side. And then, like you said, the customers at NTEA, a lot of it is our manufacturing services, and so that's everything from the precision machining, and we've got, again, two facilities that do CNC machining, and we can do everything. We tell people our sweet spot is the volume of 10 to 10,000. So we've got very broad capabilities, and so some of our customers are aerospace and defense. Other customers, like at the NTEA, is heavy trucking and work trucks. So, precision machining, metal fabrication. We do a lot of metal fabrication in the heavy trucking and the work truck industry, and then stamping, which is our higher volume. Obviously, we're going to do more than 10,000 a lot of times in the stamping runs, and then powder coating. And so those are the services that we offer. And the customer that I met Darren at, that they were one of our first powder coating customers when we spun that business off on its own. They've been a tremendous customer since, and again, we're constantly going back to them and learning more about them and how can we help them, better serve their customers, which is, again, why we were at NTEA.
Well, that's a great strategy, and I think that's really good insight for somebody that might move from client to client doing projects. And in
Yeah.
our business, we kind of started out that way. We do a project for somebody, we be done, we
Yeah.
move on to the next one. And what we forgot about, and what I think you're making a point about, is once you have a client, you ought to do everything in the world you can to keep that client and to continue to
Yeah.
provide value over time. And that may not be continuous, but at
Yeah.
least you have that relationship. So when they have a need, you're right there. They think of you, you get the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the manufacturing, our manufacturing side, you know, our clients are typically very tenured, very relationship oriented, and that business is different, right? And so it works that way. The engineering side, it's a lot more, like you said, project based, and so that's why the fit with it is so well with everything is because we can come and go as you need, or we can be there to support you with whatever, as long as you need. So if it's project based, we can help you there. But in reality, we're all looking, especially this day and age, with disruptive supply chain, with the problems in labor, with all these other issues that we're facing, not just in our facilities, but in manufacturing and service industries as a whole, and every other aspect, right? These are just realities that we're encountering. To have someone that you can count on and has some longevity to them is what we're trying to be.
So you working nationwide or internationally, or is there a geography to
Yes.
this?
Um, so I think with the I want to say nicheness, but the and commoditized is really not the right word either. But we're not the only metal fabrication. We're not the only engineering firm. We're not the only precision machine shop. So a lot of our customers are very much demographically centered in Missouri. That being said, we absolutely ship across country lines. We have our some of our largest customers are outside of Missouri and over on the East Coast as and some out in the Southwest. So yes, our customer concentration is geographically located, but is not by design.
Just through growth opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how many trade shows a year do you do?
So we exhibit typically 3 to 4 trade shows we exhibit at, and then we attend between 6 and 10 that will attend, and it really depends on kind of what customer concentration we have there, as well as are we going to learn anything from it? Like I said, Work Truck Week is a fantastic example, because not only do they have the exhibit hall, they have the conferences that go on with it, and the interaction with other professionals in that industry, in that market, that again we can learn from. Even though we're not selling directly to those end customers, we can learn about that market so that we can better support our customers who are selling to that end customer. We've got a few other trade shows that we do that with. Some of our aerospace and defense trade shows are certainly geared towards that as well, learning what is it that the war fighter needs, and those items the airlines are needing, so that we can best support that. And we've got another small niche business that does aftermarket automotive, right? So we attend a trade show that out in Vegas every year, SEMA, that allows us to again keep our pulse on what that market is doing, and understanding what the end customers are going towards, so that we can better support our customers in that market.
So what's your role in all these businesses? Because it seems like you could be wearing about a dozen different hats.
Yeah, so I wear about a dozen different hats. So with the addition of Big Rocks Engineering, we manage obviously all the engineering services, and I'm the general manager there. We also do all the business development across all of our entities. So we manage the business development there. Myself, I work at the holding company. I'm one of the few employees that work across all of the entities, and so that's my role, is focusing on growth and business development.
So when you're at these trade shows, you're focused on client relations and identifying and talking to new potential customers. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah.
So in addition to trade shows, what are some other ways that you guys are getting your message out, trying to make people aware of who you are and what you do, and attract new customers?
Yeah, the trade shows have been really good for us, especially post COVID. That was one that 3 years ago, as we started laying out our strategy, we said, will trade shows still work? And they've been wildly successful. We do a lot of business via referral, but then I would say that the actual kind of strategic approach is, we do a lot. We try to add a lot of value up front. We've got our blog posts that we're doing on the Big Rocks Engineering side. We're regulars on our social media activity. We do advertise with Design Depart, as I mentioned before, and their magazines and their trade organizations. And we're looking for additional, we're constantly looking for additional opportunities. And it was sheer coincidence when you reached out about joining you on your podcast that the day before I was meeting with our marketing, assistant, and she said, "You need to be on more podcasts." And then you sent an email. I'm like, "Well, there you go, Jessica, your wish is my command." So it works out that way. We're looking for more and more ways to just get involved. We are involved in a lot of trade associations. You mentioned the NTMA with our machining facilities. We're members with the Custom Coating Association for our powder coating facilities. So we're definitely staying engaged with the trade associations.
So a lot of your marketing budget are going towards those activities, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense because that's where your customers are, right?
Yeah, and we're I would say that I don't want to complain because we don't get a lot of pushback on our marketing budget, but at the same time we're modest and controlled with what we put it into, right? And we try to be as focused especially anytime that we spend money. We want to make sure that we're getting a good return and we're retaining contacts in any of our activity, and that's one thing that we've been very fortunate with is the activity that we do. We do it to drive, like I said, the relationships and retaining those contacts so that we can build and nurture those relationships going forward.
So what's the best part of your job?
You know, there's so many. I love being kind of at a high level that I get to do things like this here, and I get to go to the trade shows and I get to interact with people. But at the same time, I don't discount. You're going to find me on any plant floor. You open your manufacturing doors and you let me in. I'm going to be on the plant floor. I carry my safety glasses with me everywhere, and I'm ready to go. Like, I want to see what it is that you're doing. I want to see how can we learn from each other. How can we get better? With the different things. I'm very much. Again, it's a passion for me. I love seeing what everybody is doing and how everybody does it differently, right? We all do the same things, but we do it differently, and it's fantastic, and so that's the best part for me is actually getting on the plant floors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, it's one of the things similar between you and I and what we do is, for me, the best part of my job is getting to learn about new companies, whether they're a manufacturer or service provider, tourism, healthcare, whatever, but learning, what makes them click, how they get new customers, how they make money, because ultimately,
Yeah,
most businesses are in business to make money. It might be a
to make
passion.
money. Yeah.
Yeah. They're not doing it for
Yep.
practice, as a old partner of mine
Yeah.
used to say. And so anything we can do to bring value to that proposition,
Yeah.
is beneficial for both of us.
Yep. Yep. Well, and again, and doing it to make money is not a bad thing, right? Because making money allows for reinvestment and allows for growth. It allows for for it allows for technological advances. It allows for labor advances. It allows for better labor and better relationships, better benefits, better opportunities. And so, making money isn't a bad thing. Everyone likes to think that it's this horrible thing, but if you look at what that capital, the opportunities that capital creates, that's what's really exciting, right? Because that's where automation happens, and that's where new machines and new equipment happen. That's where new positions and new technology come from.
Absolutely. And, bottom line is, if you're not making any money, you're not going to be around to provide the
Yep.
services that your customer is dependent upon you for. So, in a good client, in our situation, good client agency relationship, they want us to make money. And because
Yeah,
they know that we'll be around and we can continue to invest in new technologies and to try to stay ahead of the curve in terms of the marketing evolution that's occurring and lead them along the line, because I'm sure it's the same in your business. They don't have time to do a
yeah,
lot of the things that we do or that you do.
yep.
And so anything we can do to help them is a plus.
Yeah, 100%. And to that point, the best relationships that we have are with the OEMs that say, we're not going to beat you up on price, but we're going to make sure that you provide value to us, right? And that fits perfectly for us, right? Because that allows us to focus on how do we really add value, right? How do we do things like inventory management for the customer? How do we do things like improved lead times and improving our supplier scores, and not just constantly going back to our suppliers and the raw material suppliers and beating them up and scouring over what is the metal markets doing today, right? And what's cold roll priced at today, and do we have to pass that adjustment on? We're able to move away from that and really focus on how do we add value to the customer. And that's where, like I said, OEMs that truly understand that are the ones that we just love working with, because again, it allows us to do things that betters them, to allow them to do things to handle their big rocks, their top priorities.
Yeah, and I'm sure they love doing business with you as well. And as I think about your business and how it's evolved and how successful you are today, there has to be some underlying principles to the way you run your business that have helped you to achieve that. What would those be?
Yeah, so for us, our core principles are pretty straightforward: safety, customer growth, and continuous improvement. You've heard me just hammer on customer growth. We are focused on improving our customers, but that's very somewhat external. Internally, safety. Everyone, and we say safety is more than just safety glasses, right? Everyone deserves a safe place to work, and there's a lot that goes into that. And the last one is continuous improvement. We focus a lot on continuous improvement, and we do it somewhat untraditional, because we want it to be, from the plant floor up. It isn't the owner saying, go improve, go fix this, go do this, go have a Kaizen event, or do any of this. It very much is from the plant up. My favorite story of recent is late last year, I had a couple customers tour our plant, and they said, "Man, it seems like people are allowed to make decisions here on their own to get the job done." And it's like, yes, that's exactly how it should be. That's that's a lot of those are our principles: safety, customer growth, continuous improvement.
Well, I think what you described there, and I think about it from the standpoint of being on the floor, is listening and
Yeah,
communicating. And I know in our business that we're able to help our customers grow by listening. And they have
yeah,
problems, they have opportunities, they have challenges. And if there are things that we can do through our experience and expertise to help them overcome those, they will grow. And then
yeah,
consequently, when they grow, they typically grow their marketing budgets and their technology budgets and everything else to meet the needs of a growing company.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to say as someone who clearly likes to talk like I do, but the listening part is absolutely, it's absolutely essential. We had a call with a sales team earlier today, and someone asked the question, "Man, how do I overcome this price question?" And the answer is ask questions, right? Like if their issue is pricing, we need to ask more questions. We need to find out what's driving that question, right? Is it because they have a single source out of the Pacific Rim that we just can't compete with because we don't have subsidized materials? Or is it they've got a positive relationship with one supplier, and that's the real reason? Or is it what is it? We need to ask more questions, and to your point, we need to be better listeners.
Yeah, that pretty much is life in general, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know my
Yeah.
wife says that all the time. You need to listen a little bit better, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I get that a lot.
Hey, Mike, I've really enjoyed visiting today. I think we have a lot in common, and I think we're, both as leaders in our organizations and as companies trying to kind of move in the same direction. And certainly, we love doing business with manufacturers as well because there are things that we can do that can help them grow that business. But as we wrap up today, what else would you like to share with our audience that you think, they might find interesting or inspirational? And as part of that, tell our audience how to find you and your company if they look online.
Yeah, interesting or inspirational. I don't know. We've covered a lot here today, and I think ending with being better listeners than we are talkers is you can't get much better than that. That is absolutely key, especially in a time where things seem to be so polarizing. We want to be heard more than anybody else. So taking the time to listen, that certainly as insightful as it gets. Finding us, always check out our website, bigrocksengineering.com. You'll find links to all of our manufacturing suppliers on the website as well. And, you'll be able to reach out and connect. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn as well. That's our big social media platform. And yeah, that's the gist. That's how you get a hold of us.
Very good. There you are, folks. If you're looking for a variety of services to meet your OEM manufacturing needs, Big Rock Engineering. Mike, thanks for being with us.
I really appreciate it, Cliff.
Same here. I've enjoyed it. Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with Mike Hill of Big Rocks Engineering. Come back again next week and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.